Hi guys, in this video we are going to take a look at finding relative maximum, minimum, intervals of increase and decrease, and the domain and range from a graph. So I went ahead and copied the graph over here. So first, in terms of the relative maximum, that should happen whenever the graph has like a hill. Okay, so look for a hill. Imagine that you are walking on the graph, so you're going from left to right, and then you keep going up until this point, and this is called the turning point of the graph. And at that point, the graph starts going down, right? And then goes up again over here. All right, so for the maximum, that's that hill, and it's 0, 0. Now notice, actually, it's kind of a bad example because here the x and the y are both the same, but what you want is the y. So you would say relative maximum is equal to 0 at x equals 0. Okay, now for the minimum, you're looking for a valley of the graph. So this is where it dips down and then going up again. So what you want is list the y value. So relative minimum is going to be -2, and it happens when x equals to 2. Okay, so we're done with that. Now let's look at intervals of increase. So increase, well, this is where the graph goes up, right? So think about this like that. Okay, so I already drew it orange, but what you want is the x values, right? So if you look on the graph, it looks like as you walk in, how does your x change? So it starts somewhere over here, right? And then it'll go all the way up to that turning point, and that turning point has coordinate of 0, right? So that's x equals 0. So this is your interval, and it may look like it's -2 to 0, but actually, since the graph keeps going, we're going to assume that it never really stops. So it'll keep going to all the way down to -infinity, right? So the x values, we would say, start at -infinity, and because there is no bound there, and then stop at that turning point x value. So you remember the not this one actually, but this one. So x equals 0, okay? So that's increase. And also the orange, right? Again, it's going to start picking up over here. Well, it will be all the way over here. So let's look at how x changes there. So it starts right here, and it just keeps going. Again, since there's no bound, we're going to assume that it just keeps going forever. And this happens when x equals what? So don't look at the y, look at the x. So this is like 2 over here up until infinity. So this is going to go 2 to infinity. Okay, what about decreasing? This is where the graph going down, the graph is going down, and that's where that green region, right? But again, this green region right here, this is going to be right in between, right? So from 0 to 2. So this is 0 to 2. So this is going to be 0 to 2. Very commonly, people mix up the x and the y. Here you're looking at the x range, right? And now we can also say the domain, because it looks like we're covering everything. Our x changes from -infinity to +infinity. We do not have any problems with this graph, right? Anywhere. Same thing will happen with the range, because the range is basically will be like -infinity over here on the bottom and +infinity on the top. So as you walk in, you are covering the whole thing all the way from the bottom to the top, right? So this is going to go from -infinity to +infinity. All right, so let's fill that out here. So we're going to say 0 at 0, and then we're going to say -2 at 2. The increase is going to be -infinity to 0. Now you do have the symbol here, and then 2 to infinity. Okay, decrease was between 0 and 2, and then the domain and range were both -infinity to infinity. All right, let's submit that.